Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Man, I've got a really talented, really cool guitar player with us today with Cary Morin. Cary is excellent, excellent fingerstyle guitar player. And what really turned me on about his playing was, unlike most fingerstyle players where they're playing classical music, bluegrass, I'm a blues guy, and Cary's a fantastic blues player. And man, I'll ask him about this, but when you play, one of the things I noticed, and I think I have a question, is it's like each finger, I've never seen anybody with that dexterity and independence ever. I've interviewed 650 guitar players, man. 10% of them are acoustic. I've never seen anybody with that mobility. So I'm gonna quiz you on that in a little bit. But anyway, so with Cary Morin, a couple of shout outs or announcements. Johnny Duke, I want to just thank you for connecting us. Really appreciate it. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe so you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and the audio of the show. And Carlos Santana and Joe Walsh, I want to have those guys on the show. So if you're a listener, you can connect us, please do so. All right, let's talk about my man, Cary Morin. Great acoustic picker and blues guitarist. His 6th solo album, When I Rise, was released last year following a U.S. and European tour, and it's great. In fact, I listened to his last 2 records. They're really, really awesome. Cary's a Crow tribal member and son of an Air Force officer, born originally in Billings, Montana, spent the bulk of his youth in Great Falls, where he cut his teeth picking guitar standards before relocating to northern Colorado. There he founded the Atoll. Is that how you pronounce it?
That works. There are a bunch of different pronunciations, and I never really knew which was right. We called it the Atoll.
The Atoll. Okay. He founded the Atoll, a band that toured nationally and gained a devoted following. Later, he achieved international acclaim with the Purify Trio, for whom the single Old Midlife Crisis, which I would encourage you to listen to. It's a really cool song, which Cary wrote. That song placed at number 17 on France's iTunes Blue Chart. With the Atoll and the Purify Trio, and as a solo artist, Cary's toured extensively throughout Europe as well as Japan. He's also played the Paris Jazz Festival, the Vancouver Olympics. His music has won a bunch of awards. I'm doing him a bit of a disservice by saying a bunch because it's a ton, including the 2017 Indigenous Music Awards for Best Blues CD, which is Cradle to the Grave. That's his album 2 albums ago, and the 2018, the same award for When I Rise. Cary, thanks so much for your time, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Craig.
So, as I said, it's a real joy to watch you play guitar, man. I've never seen anybody with that. Like, it's almost like there's a little motor in each of your hands, you know? And it's really nice to hear you playing blues. And I was curious, how did you get into blues in general, and what made you gravitate to fingerstyle over, let's say, conventional acoustic or even electric?
Wow, there's so many influences, I guess, over the years. I was originally, as a child, a piano player.
Oh, wow.
My mom really wanted me to take piano lessons when I was a child. So I did that for a bunch of years, and I found a guitar that one of my older brothers had left at home when he went to college, and picked it up, and I could just play it. I don't know why it was so easy for me, but and then some of my other friends, older brothers that went off to college, left albums and stuff, and we ended up listening to records we didn't even know what it was. John Prine stuff, Leo Kottke stuff, and then my dad's influence in his music. He loved Chet Atkins. So I don't know. I just
so you had all these fingerstyle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one for me was when I was a teenager and I was starting to play out, and I had become pretty adept at learning songs from vinyl, which we all did as children. You had different ways of slowing down licks and stuff off of vinyl records. Mark Knopfler was a huge influence on what it is that I do. Yeah, just lots and lots of fingerstyle stuff and piano music.
But with the exception of Knopfler, all those guys are not blues. So how did you get into, like, I guess the question is, something about blues hooked you emotionally?
Well, it's all derived from blues. I mean, even if you're listening to the Stones, or if you're listening to Zeppelin, it was their take on American blues. And if you really, sit down with any of Knopfler's albums, it's in there.
Yeah.
And growing up in Montana, I at that time in the 70s, we didn't have a whole lot of media streaming into our homes like you do these days. And, the choice of genres and music that you can listen to now is endless. We had a couple of radio stations and one TV channel. And
wow.
so what I got musically was whatever the radio conglomerates were forcing on us, or Don Kirshner's rock concert.
Don Kirshner's rock concert. Yeah, man. What a good show that was. Wasn't that awesome?
Yeah, it was awesome. That really and cool. I used to love to watch Hee Haw.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the players that I saw in those TV shows were new to me. And then you go out and seek them out. And from there, I got into bluegrass and country music and rock music and folk music. And yes, somehow I think one of the big things is I found it really difficult to hold a pick, to like grasp a pick. I would always drop them, or like the typical Fender pick, the little teardrop looking thing, would always turn around in my hand. So suddenly, I'm using the end of the pick. So
So many of our listeners ordered the last coat when the company set up this special offer for Everyone Loves Guitar listeners. The company wanted to make this offer available one more time, again, just for listeners of Everyone Loves Guitar. So if you didn't get a chance to take advantage of it last month, you're getting one more chance to get free bottles of this breakthrough nanotechnology. So listen up. Hey guys, this is Craig. First of all, I'm really thrilled to tell you about this next advertiser because the owner and I have been friends for close to 10 years. And when I say friends, I don't mean Facebook friends. We're actually good friends. We've been to each other's homes. Our families have eaten meals together, and I've carried his kids in my arms when they were babies. And even more important to you, he's got a killer product on the cutting edge of technology. So if you drive a car, truck, or motorcycle, or if you play guitar or any other stringed instrument, then pay really close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Because I want to talk to you about the Last Coat. The Last Coat is a proprietary formula that lets you wash, polish, and put a protective coating on your car. It's based on hydrophobic liquid glass nanotechnology, which is an advanced and environmentally safe technology that actually protects any surface, including guitars. The product's manufactured right here in the United States. All you do is apply it once, and it creates an ultra-thin layer which protects your car's surface for 6 months under any kind of driving conditions. Your car looks like you've spent basically all day washing and waxing it, not the 20 minutes it actually takes you. Then anytime your car gets dirty over the next 6 months, just wash it off and you'll see the water beating up on there, and then wipe it down. And that same protective shiny coating that you have after applying it will still be there. It provides protection from rain, sleet, or snow, and there's no more dirty water residue. And on top of everything else, the Last Coat is 100% guaranteed to work, meaning if you're unsatisfied with the Last Coat for any reason at all, or if it fails to live up to any of its claims, just send the product back. They'll give you a full refund, no headaches, no hassles, anytime for 365 days after you order it. And here's the really cool stuff. The Last Coat also works just as well on guitars, basses, countertops, mirrors, anything wood or pretty much any surface at all. I've used it on all my guitars, including my 335, and they're literally mint. To get this product, which includes free travel size bottle bottles for your guitar that fit right inside your guitar case, along with free microfiber towels. And on top of that, if you use the coupon code ELG15, you're also going to get another 15% off. To get all this, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/TLC, and don't forget to use the coupon code ELG15, and you'll also get 15% off. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/TLC. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the Tampa Bay area without having to deal with pushy realtors? Then make sure you connect with West Florida Real Estate. West Florida Real Estate has helped over 300 homeowners and investors buy and sell their properties over the last 5 years. Their service is outstanding, just like back in the days when there was actually service in the service business, and you'll never have to deal with any kind of sales junk when you're working with them. For more information, email Ann with an E at westfloridarealestate.com. That's ANNE at westfloridarealestate.com. If you enjoy this show and you'd like to support it, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/support.
I think maybe it was my piano background, but that as well. I just learned to play with my fingers.
That's great, man. That's fantastic. I love playing with fingers, but I'm just not adept at it. You know, I need the pick to give me things I can't do. But when I see someone like you, it's really, you know, I appreciate the beauty of what you're doing, man. It's not easy, and you're on it, man. So,
well, thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you. How did you first get started in the music business? Like, what was your first, I don't say big break or first break?
I can't get a break. I did play, and I don't know how we booked these things. I played with this friend of mine who lived near me. We kind of lived out in the country, and there was a guy that lived about 10 miles down the road. His name was Matt Lyon, and he was like a fantastic banjo player and guitar player, and he was just phenomenal at anything he picked up, and he was always looking for something to pick up. I mean, hammer dulcimer, whatever.
Yeah.
He just really, I think, had an astounding understanding of music theory, and he's very dexterous. Somehow we started playing together, and would book gigs, and sometimes we would get booked onto like theater shows,
Okay.
big bands that were coming through town.
So as the opening act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it started. And when I left Montana, I was like 17 or 18. I came to Colorado, and I continued to play music and doing solo shows, and eventually got into bands. Started playing with bands for decades. So yeah, it was. I haven't heard other people's stories that grow up in rural places about, you know, how they get into performing.
It's very difficult, man. You have to do what you got to move for the most part, which is what you did.
Yeah, I did, and even now that, you know, I've lived in Colorado for almost 40 years, I still have to move. As I'll do shows around the Midwest, but it's a long trip to anywhere.
Yeah.
From here, so we tend to gravitate towards the South and East Coast and the West Coast to get shows that are closer together.
Did you ever bump into Tommy Bolin in Colorado?
I listened to him. Private Eyes was like one of my go-tos when I was a child.
Yeah.
But I think he passed away about the same time I moved to Colorado.
Okay.
And I didn't bring my records with me. I had all this vinyl, and I left it all behind. And then when I got to Colorado, I had a job I delivered pizzas. That was my first job here when I was a teenager. And I would pay my rent and then spend all the rest of my money on vinyl.
Yeah, man.
But I didn't replace any of the vinyl that I left behind at home. But yeah, those songs on that album, as you know, I think back on it, the tones and the production on that album was amazing.
Yeah, great record, man.
Yeah, it's really cool. But I think he just got inducted into the Colorado Hall of Fame this 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's great, man. Well overdue for a guy like
Yeah, exactly.
So I looked up on the map. Billings, where you were born, it's in the Crow Nation. So were you born on like the Crow Reservation there, or?
Oh, Billings is like it's right there. It's just like right over the line off the reservation.
Okay.
And when I was born, my dad had a job there, and we only lived there for about 4 or 5 years, I think. And then he was in the Air Force, so he got transferred to Tacoma, Washington. And we spent 2 or 3 years there, and then he was transferred to Great Falls, Montana, which is where he ended up retiring. And that's basically where I grew up.
In Great Falls.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was a real small town.
By some standards, I think at the time it was like 50,000 people.
Wow.
And that would be the biggest town in Montana at the time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. The population in Montana and Wyoming combined was still less people than the population of Denver.
Yeah. You know, I was a few years, probably about 10 years ago, my family and we took a trip out to, is it Yellowstone?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In Wyoming.
Yeah. And we drove Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, which is cool because it's that part of the country. It's just beautiful, majestic. I mean, you know, in Florida, it's nothing but flat, you know, and you see these mountains that look like God himself sculpted them. I mean, it's just beautiful to see. And I remember the funniest thing is we go into, I think, Wyoming, and what's the first thing I see is a pizza shop. Like, I was like, man, I'm going to pass on Wyoming pizza. I'm just thinking, nothing against Wyoming, but I'm thinking, man, I probably should eat some beef here or something like that.
Yeah, the Rocky Mountains in Montana were always in sight for me when I was a child. And just the majesty of Montana was something that I saw every single day of my childhood, and I thought that I guess that's how the world is. I didn't have anything.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So it wasn't really until I left Montana that I started to realize that it's really something incredible.
Yeah, it really and truly. What is the biggest city you've been in since then? Or what was the first time you were in a really big city and it was like, was it weird?
Well, my dad took me to Portland one time to buy a guitar. And that there was just like an insane amount of people there that I wasn't accustomed to. A couple of times we went up towards Vancouver on vacation. But after I left home, I think the first big city that I ever went to was Dallas.
Oh, that's a big city, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember trying to walk into a club. I could hear the salsa music just pouring out of this club, and they wouldn't let me in because I was wearing tennis shoes.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
I was like, wow, that's an odd rule. You know?
It is an odd rule because I wear tennis shoes or sneakers all the time. Yeah, man, they should let you in. Yeah, that is an odd rule. That
was in the 80s. I mean, that was a long time ago, but
yeah, you should have been wearing Capezios, I think.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently. It sounded like, I did some reading on the Atoll. It sounded like you guys had some pretty good success things going. What happened with that band?
We played together for a long time, and there was a couple of different versions of that band. The original trio, um, our drummer decided to move to France, and when he left the band, that kind of changed everything. And then when I finally got personnel together that I felt we could stick with, it turned into a 4-piece, and we were managed by a company out of Minneapolis, and their contacts were very, very strong in the Midwest. So that's what we did. We never really went to the East Coast, and we never went down south, never went to the West Coast. But man, did we played around the Midwest like crazy. We did a lot of shows in Minnesota and surrounding states. And the coolest thing about that is there were some bands from Africa that were in Minneapolis. There was a lot of really cool funk bands, and a lot of music that I had never really been exposed to. We would end up on the bill with.
That's cool.
So I'd end up watching and learning from international artists, and it was really a stellar experience, especially at my young age, where I hadn't really been exposed to a whole lot of live shows that were that you would consider international shows.
Anybody that you met? Sorry.
King Sunny Ade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But that band, I mean, there was very little interaction with them. They came in off the bus, one player at a time, and then exited the stage the same way. One player at a time. And then when the last guy left, it's like the bus was like running and they took off, There was another band on that bill that was another African band, but I can't remember who that was. It's been so long ago. But some of the reggae bands that were considered to be really classic bands, one called Ipso Facto from Minneapolis, one called Local Hero from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was developing reggae and world music on no experience. What I could garner from listening to records, but it was really seeing great performers do their thing on stage that changed the way that I approach music and approach guitar and approach reggae at the time. We played with some great bands around Austin, Texas. And really, whether we were playing with rock bands or reggae bands or world bands, I was like a sponge. I would really, soak up a lot of what I was seeing and what I was hearing. And it stuck with me, even to this day.
It was like really good tuition for you, all these early gigs.
I think so. What I took away from my youth growing up in Montana was learning how to sing harmony, because that's just what you did. We were playing country music and bluegrass music, and that was part of the thing. Flat picking, and I guess the theory behind country music. So I don't know, when you roll all that together, country music in my youth and reggae music and world music in my later years, I guess this is what you get.
Yeah. Your voice is great, man. When it's very calming. It's like you have the kind of voice like it's like, you know, if you go to the doctor's office and you feel like you're in good hands versus you go to the doctor's office and you're like, shit, I'm scared to death to be with this guy. You're the guy with like, okay, I'm in good hands. It's comforting. Your voice is like that. And that's a gift, man. It's not, especially for the kind of music you sing, because it's just you and an acoustic sometimes.
Yeah, most times. Yeah, does anybody like their own voice?
No. I don't like my own voice. See, when I listen to it, like, especially when I hear myself laugh, I'm like, oh my God, how do people listen to this show? It's like, oh, but no, nobody does.
Yeah, it's something that I've struggled with, and I think that it was like it was really difficult for me to try and discover my own voice because I grew up emulating recordings,
Hmm.
you know, from the record player, and I don't know, long about, I guess in my mid 20s or late 20s, I started to like have my own voice, instead of like, you know, folk music heroes, James Taylor or something like that, you know, or country singers that I really respected and wanted to sound like.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's something that I stumble across and like, yeah, I don't know. No, nobody likes their own voice, but that's
No,
pretty
it's
gay.
perfect for what you do. It really fits, and you know, it's great, man. Okay, so I did some research, and if Wikipedia is accurate, it says Puda Fay is from New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Yet she's Native American, which, man, I grew up in New York City for like almost 30 years, and I don't think I've ever met one Native American that's in New York City, from New York City. So I was like, how did you guys wind up connecting? That's like a big stretch from New York. New York and Native American is a big, like, how did that happen? And then New York, and then I'm assuming she wasn't in New York when you all met or connected musically.
No, she started a band in New York called Eulali, um, back in the 80s, and eventually that band morphed into um, a vocal trio.
Okay.
And we both got hired to the same show in Phoenix one year. Man, that was like mid 80s, I think.
Hmm.
And that's where we met. And I first heard what they did as just a vocal group, and it was amazing. Um, I would I would actually be in tears when they did this. They did the same song every night, and it was just so beautiful. I was just overcome listening to her and Sonny and Jennifer sing every night. And we were on that show for 2 weeks or so. So everybody in the whole cast became pretty good friends, and we we stayed in touch after that. And every once in a while we talk on the phone. And um, she had since gotten a record deal with a record company in Paris, and she was trying to talk the record company into doing a collection of native performers uh, on a CD, and she suggested me as, you know, one of the bunch of players that she came up with. They ended up doing the record, and they used either one or two of my songs. And then after that, when her guitar player got worn out from touring, she called me up and asked me if I wanted the gig.
And you said,
So
yeah.
yeah, and I
And
said, yeah.
that's why now it makes sense. It was a Paris record company. I was like, how did your song that you wrote get to be a hit in France? Now I get it.
Right, yeah. And she's like really well known in in Europe, but particularly in France.
Hmm.
Um, we ended up touring for quite a few years, and that's where I started to learn. I mean, there are some other players in Colorado that do a pretty interesting solo show, and I started to get a feel for how performers and songwriters um, move a bigger audience. And sitting next to her every night is where I learned the bulk of what I could do. And like every other guitar player, I sat there and went, I could do that.
Well, it's funny. One of the things I was going to mention to you was I watched several of the videos of you all. What a great stage presence she had, man. And just a good ability to communicate with the audience like
Mhm.
they were buddies, you know,
Mhm.
very relaxed and very herself, you know, so it seemed, but it's just very natural, organic, and it was really nice. Again, it's like when you're in good hands, you know, as a leader, we're coming to a show, and you're the same way, and everybody who loves music, you want to be led into, you know, the music, right? The musical journey that you guys are going to take us on. And she did a great job of that.
Yeah, and she continues to inspire me. I just did a couple shows with her last week in North Carolina, and yeah, we just whenever we haven't played together for several months and get back together, don't miss a step. It's like
That's
it's really comfortable, and it's really a joy for me to be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. What finally made you say, okay, I'm going to leave this band thing, I'm going to be a solo artist? Because that's not an easy decision. Well, it's an easy decision to reach, it's a difficult one to implement.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, there were a couple of factors. I was kind of forced into it. I wrote a play in like 99.
You wrote a
Uh,
play. Like,
yeah, a stage play.
had you done that before, or like what?
No, I hadn't. But I there was a friend of mine here in Colorado um, who suggested, and she's a choreographer. She was like, "Yeah, it'd be cool if we could come up with some sort of a thing that incorporates dance and story and original music." And so while I was cruising around with my band, doing shows, I'd be scribbling down notes and coming up with ideas, and I develop the story, and I try it out on the guys in the van, and I try songs out on stage. Um, Eventually, we found a foundation that agreed to fund the thing, and boom, we had a cast of 50, and we're doing rehearsals for a year and get the thing on stage. But that took the band off the road for over a year, and it kind of killed it.
Yeah, they probably
So,
weren't thrilled with that, I would imagine.
well, no, they were all part of the production, but
Okay.
we we lost our management and our booking, and uh, everything kind of fell apart. I was back to booking the band myself, and um, eventually I was forced into, well, you know, what is my next thing going to be? Because the phone stopped ringing,
Sure.
and one of my good friends from Tulsa came to visit and stay at my house for a couple of days one time, and we were sitting in the basement goofing around with songs, and I was doing this fingerstyle thing, um, and he was like, "There it is, right there." I was like, "What?" Like, "That's your next thing." And so, pretty much from that moment on, I was looking for recordings to listen to and trying to go to shows to figure out, you know, how is it that one guy could be on stage and command a big audience. And it's been my quest ever since.
So before that, were you not playing fingerstyle?
Well, I was playing fingerstyle on electric guitar, and I didn't consider it to be fingerstyle. I just didn't use a pick. And well, I would use a pick about half the time. There was some
Okay.
stuff that I think the sound and the tone of the guitar kind of required it. But all that music that I used to pursue as a child came back to me, and I was like really interested in Leo Kaki and stuff like that again, and other artists too. I discovered while we were on tour in France Kelly Joe Phelps recordings, and really started to immerse myself into that.
I don't know. Is that a male or a female?
It's a guy from I think Vancouver.
Kelly Joe Phelps.
Yeah, fantastic player. Really, he came from a jazz background, but applied what he did to acoustic guitar and doing country blues and fingerstyle blues and just really wild interpretations of classic blues tunes.
And so how long did it take once you started doing this till you felt, okay, I've found my voice, for lack of I hate to use that cliche, but I don't mean voice, your singing voice. I mean, you found your voice as a solo artist.
No, I understand what you're saying. And I'm not sure that I have. It doesn't seem to end. I just continue to try and develop things, and it's an ongoing quest. It's great. My wife continues to make connections and book shows really around the world, and it seems like we pick something up, musically or stage wise, everywhere we go. So yeah, it continues, and it's an ongoing effort.
So let me ask the question another way, because I totally get it. Because I think everybody, no matter what they do, if you're driven, you never think, okay, I've arrived. You always think, hey man, I'm a working. I mean, I don't know people like that.
Right.
I'm allergic to people like that. But you're always like, okay, let me get a little better every day, work in progress. How long did it take for your audience to give you the message like, hey man, we're into this?
It was wow, it took a long time, Craig. It was like 6 years or so of steady home rehearsal and being in front of all different size audiences. In the beginning, I would go out and do anything,
sure,
just to get in front of people,
right?
And did that for quite a few years. And truth be told, I'm still the same way. I'll go play open mic tonight if there's one going on and the mood strikes me. I'll get up and play for nothing in front of 10 people.
Sure.
But and then on the other hand, it's taken me a lot of years to get over the anxiety of being in front of larger audience, like thousands of people, without a band, just standing there by myself.
It's a vulnerable slot, man.
Yeah. It was a difficult thing to overcome, and I think just through spending a lot of time at home playing and knowing the material so well that no matter how rattled I get on stage, I still know that I know the songs really well, and there's no substitute for that.
None. Preparation is the best.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you? You said it took you 6 years. What drove you? That's a big commitment, man. 20 years from now, it's easy for someone to look back and say, oh, 6 years. But when you're going through that, That's a long ass time every
It
day.
is. I don't know. I think that I felt like I don't. Well, I always joke with people that I don't really qualify for anything else, but I had to. I had to make it work. You
Yeah.
know, it, it, trust me, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else that I want to do. I mean,
The passion. So the fire, man.
yeah, I guess that's what you would call it. There's nothing else that I feel like I want to do. The fulfillment that I get personally, and it just makes me happy to see people happy, you
Yeah.
know. So when I just always, like I said earlier, it's always a quest to do it as good as you can do, maybe a little better.
Sure, man. Thank you. You originally from Billings. What was your childhood like growing up there?
Um, it was rural. It was um, uh, I don't know how to describe it. It was a fishbowl. It was like we were looking at the world out there, and it was a long time before I felt like I could participate. I never really left home.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty much stayed there, and we influenced each other. There were some kids that had more means than I did growing up, and so
Sure.
I'd be like, you go to somebody's house and everything looks like really cool. It's like you live in a museum. And then they would come to my house and say the same thing, and be like, wow, this is really interesting, And then the musical influences uh, between our friends was vast.
Yeah.
So I had friends that were musicians, and I had friends that weren't, and so we all coexisted. And occasionally there'd be a show where me and my musician friends would get up and entertain everybody else,
Right.
and there was this other cool thing in our town. There were always house bands. There were like 3 different clubs that had the same band 6 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that for years and years and years. We would go see these guys, and these guys standing on stage every single night, uh, trying to keep it interesting and play different songs, popular country songs that would come up, and their take on that, and uh, how they interacted with audiences, albeit they were pretty small. But these bands were fantastic, and vocal harmonies, and you name it. Guitar players, fiddle players, bass players, drummers, keyboard players. There was a lot to draw on. And anytime as like a 14-year-old, I would walk into a club, they would see me and my friends come in, and they'd say, hey, get up here. And they would get you on stage and force you to
That's
start.
so cool. So they were really supportive of you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That was the culture.
That's not, see, that's what you get in a smaller town like that, man,
Mhm.
where it's easier, it seems, to be nice in a small town.
Yeah, and everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great way to grow up, and it was. Well, I remember going home after being gone for like 2 years and seeing some of those guys, go back and see the bands
Yeah.
that they're still doing their thing, And there's this guy, he's not with us anymore, but his name is Oliver, and he was like a really fine pedal steel player and guitar player and fiddle player. And on his break, we ended up sitting at the same table. He said, "So, I hear that you're doing shows in Colorado. You're playing all over the place, ski areas and whatnot." And I said, "Yeah, well, I'm doing that, and I got a job at a pizza place." And he said, "Players don't have jobs." And from that point on, I was wrecked. I just always remember Oliver telling me, never get a job. So so
So
I had to make music work, in my young mind at that point.
so he pushed you to changing your thought process about music and about what you can do in music, pretty much.
Yeah, with a total offhand comment.
That's cool.
He was probably joking, but I'm sure that he never had a job, and that's just how the players were in the little town that I grew up. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world.
Sure.
But it was like, yeah, these guys, rehearsal, stage, and I don't know what else. I don't know, I don't know what else they did, but that's all I was aware of. So that's kind of the work ethic that I grew up with.
It's funny. Somebody was telling me recently about they went. I'm sorry, I talked to a lot of people, and the numbers are overwhelming sometimes. But they were telling me they grew up in a small town, and they left it and went LA someplace, and they said, I was so devastated when I found out that people lie. And I was like, wow, because I grew up in the Bronx. I just assume everybody lies, which is horrible, because like, why would, that's like, it taints your viewpoint of you have to like, I had to reprogram myself to realize, hey man, the rat race is over. You could relax, just take things on face value and then evaluate, just don't assume everybody's trying to get over, let's say, in context, of course. But it's really amazing when I hear these, which is, I'm sure in Billings, it was the same way. I'm sure nobody would lie.
Well, I don't know about that, but we did grow up with a respectful culture. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Open doors for ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how we grew up.
It's great. Yeah. That's how I've raised my kids. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. No, they're really super polite. That was really important to me, actually, the politeness, because I wasn't raised like that. And I'm like that now, but I had to be, because I saw how other people, I said, man, that's a nice thing to do. So my kids are like that, but yeah. What were some of the low points, Cary, or dark periods you've had to deal with in life, and how'd you get through them?
Wow. I think when my father passed away, that was like a huge thing. Yeah, I just thought that, like, family would always be there, and it's that was a shocker. I've had periods of my musical life when I had to like rebuild. I've had to do it several times, actually, and I think that I guess that kind of gets you down,
Oh yeah.
And but oddly, that's also the time when I'm probably most prolific writing wise.
Because you got to get moving.
Because things are really meaningful when,
man.
When the chips are down, it's like, wow, this is, that's the most meaningful times.
Some good stories here and some good thoughts and feelings going on in me that I need to put on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Makes sense.
The way I write songs is I'll write things and save them, and so I'll have this stack of songs, and every now and then I'll go through it and I'll go, oh, I got a couple albums worth of stuff here. I don't know how other songwriters work, if they do it like all the time, if it's like a daily thing or whatever, but I have like growth spurts, and you can tell the depressing times from the not depressed times, just by reading this stuff. I was like, oh wow, that was dark, but there's no darkness without light.
Yeah.
There's no light without darkness. So yeah, it you have to deal with all that stuff to be a complete human.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, sort of. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm trying to think. Your question. It seems from the people I've spoken to, which is a good population at this point, like close to 650 people. The solo artists, singer-songwriters, tend to do what you do. They're always sort of, you know, they have their song goggles on all the time. You know, they spot an idea and it gets written down all the time. Or they hear something, or they play a lick, and they, you know, they grab their phone and, you know, record.
Always.
Right. Bands, the primary songwriter does the same thing, but not to the same extent. But I noticed with the bands, they'll get together and like, hey, we need to write for the next record, kind of thing. So they'll sit in there and, you know, bang out 20, 30 songs over a month or so, or whatever that number is for them. But it's interesting. I just thought of that because it is a different process for everybody, you know.
It is. It's and I keep that up. I still use that same thing, and a lot of times it's driving around because we spend so much time on tour that I'll hear something on NPR or something while we're driving around on a 12-hour drive or something, and it sticks with me, and I'll jot things down, or I'll ask Celeste to grab the yellow pad and say, well, write this stuff down, you know. And it stacks up, and it bleeds over into band life. We have a 4-piece here in Fort Collins now. I haven't had a band in a couple of years, and it's something that we're working on, but I try to play those same songs in the same manner with the band.
This is Ghost Dog. Your band is called Ghost Dog, right? Yeah. That's a cool name. Where'd you come up with that, man? I don't usually ask about names, but that is a cool, that's like a comic book. Like it's a very masculine sort of.
It's kind of like that. It's
Ghost Dog.
I have this friend who's an actor. His name is Gary Farmer, and he's been in, you know, several TV shows and movies, and he was in this great movie called Ghost Dog, and so I tend to like. Well, what's funny about it is he was actually in town a couple weeks ago, and I had one of those songs laying around that I had based off of one of his characters. His name in that movie is Nobody. It's a great movie. It's called Dead Man. He did that with Johnny Depp like back in the 80s, I think. And it's really a fascinating movie.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, do because
I definitely will.
And all the possibilities for somebody called Nobody is vast. Who are you hanging out with today? Nobody.
Yeah.
And it's like anyway, it was a great moment to be able to record that song with Gary in the studio with other friends. And
that's cool.
He had no idea what I was doing until like half the song was done, and he realized that I was singing about his character in that movie. That's
cool, man. I love that name, Ghost Dog.
Yeah.
Anything that you've done which at the time was a little out of your comfort zone, but hindsight 2020 turned into a good move. Like you got out of your comfort zone, did it, and it worked out because of whatever, or it got you some other opportunities.
Well, dealing with my, I guess my insecurities or whatever, I was always really nervous on stage as a solo guy.
Yeah.
And I guess I got me and a percussionist. I guess we sort of got fired. We were playing with a band in Europe, and they decided to go with Europe players instead of flying us from the US all the time to do these tours. And it forced me into this world where I was without a job and had to come up with something, and then that job turned into me being on stage by myself, and it forced me to overcome stage fright, and uh, forced me to become a better player, and overcome those obstacles. So that was probably the big one for me.
Anything in particular that you did for people listening who still deal with anxieties related to that? Or any message that you told yourself? Or was there, sometimes you get like we all have shit that we got to deal with, and there's little tricks that we, mind games we play with ourselves to get out of that moment of fear.
Well, I've watched other performers, and I think I arrived at this point where it's just a conversation. So I try to treat it like I'm just having a conversation, even with just one person, even though maybe there's a couple thousand of them. But you can just be personable, and just like anything that you would say in a conversation like we're having right now.
Yeah.
And they talk back to you too, so that helps. Sometimes where there's maybe a language barrier,
like if you're in another country.
Yeah,
it
does work as but that's if I had to try and advise somebody if they were having some of the same issues that I was having, just treat it like a conversation.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It seems to work for me.
Yeah, because the last thing I would ever think, I mean, I haven't seen you perform, but I've watched a bunch of videos preparation for this. Not once did I ever think, man, that guy looks shaky up there. Not once. So, I mean, you're either not anymore or whatever you're doing is working. I mean, like I said, I feel totally opposite. I'm like, man, this is a guy I need to lead. I'm going to follow this guy's musical journey while I'm in the audience here, total opposite.
Well,
so, yeah.
Yeah, well, great. It's been a fun path, changing what we do musically every couple of years keeps it interesting. I've been out playing solo shows for quite a few years since I had my last band together with Young Ancients.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like 4 years. So getting back into being on stage with other players is a lot of fun. I try to use the same sensibility that I use in my solo show, but it's good to have other people on stage to share the fun with.
It's funny, man. You seem so mellow. Like I couldn't even see you getting agitated. Like you seemed like so just very laid back, relaxed, and chilled out, man. It's so interesting. And you're not the first person that, has obviously most people at some point in time have had to deal with insecurities or the jitters at a minimum going on stage. But a lot of those people are like, man, I was really worried. I'm like, I'm getting nervous just listening to like all this shit going on. Like, but you're the opposite. You're like, man, like so tranquil, man. Like, I think you would, like anybody would just listen to obey you, whatever you tell them. Like, yeah, man, this guy, I'm like, okay, man, he wants me to do this. Okay, I'll relax. I'll shut up. Yeah, because you're just like, I mean, to me, that's like, I'm like, not allergic to like frenetic, but like, you know how it is, man. When you get older, you're like, hey, man, let's lower the stress level.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In all sorts of ways. I want all my gear to be lighter and have less of it.
Yeah. Right. Whatever your thing is to lower the stress level, man, because that becomes like more important as you get older, because you realize like stress is optional, man. I'm going to opt out if I can.
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
I've had friends like Pudaface been on stage. I think she did a thing at the Capitol in DC where there was like 500,000 people in the crowd.
Holy smokes.
I know. And I played with this friend of mine in South Dakota. She left South Dakota and ended up working at East LA Music, and through there met this guy that was a Tejano star. And she said that she played for like in 9 months for over 2 million people.
Wow.
They were just playing like big, huge soccer stadiums just day after day. She said like in no time she had played in front of that many people. And at the time I just couldn't comprehend, how do you keep it together? She didn't even speak Spanish and she was singing in Spanish, It's like,
maybe that's how she kept it together. Like, I don't care what they're saying. It doesn't matter to me. I don't understand, whatever, man. It could be easy like that. And if you look at it like, man, are you happy? You said, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's nice to get other people's perspective on, what they've done in their careers and
sure.
how it compares to what you do. Yeah, I definitely try to keep it chill. We don't really fly that much. A couple times a year. Mostly we drive to everything, and try to get there a day early, and take as many days as possible to get to the next destination. We just really try and keep it as relaxed as possible because it's just me and my wife and our dog Zeus every day. So
that's a cool name for a dog, Zeus. I've met who else? I met another musician who had a dog called Zeus. That's a popular name, I guess. For dogs.
He's a 10-pound Shih Tzu. So
totally not what you think of in your mind when you see Zeus. You think of like a shepherd at a minimum, or like a pit bull or something. Zeus. That's cute, man. Is there any if you had to go back and give advice to young Carey, any advice you would have given assuming you would have listened, that would have made your life easier in work, music, business, relationships, anything?
Oh yeah, lots of stuff.
What would you have told yourself?
I probably would have said, concentrate on acoustic guitar, because I don't know, it's a thing that comes around maybe with age. You're going to get back to it. I think that it's really great to play electric and to be in bands. And I used to use like tons and tons of pedals and effects and stuff. I would never dream of going on stage without having all of these tools at my disposal. But as great and as fun as that is, it's also good to be able to go out with a 1/4-inch cable and an acoustic guitar, and still do something. So they're both great, but I kind of lost track of acoustic guitar for a couple of decades. I mean, I always had one with me, even on the road, but I'd never really dreamed of getting it on stage. And I wish that I had. I wish that I had maybe changed my focus musically. So that would be my advice to me.
That just goes to show how happy you are, like what you're doing now. Like you're like, not to get all lofty, but like you're more spiritually aligned, or emotionally aligned with what you're doing now.
Well, yeah, I like to think so, and I think the whole thing. There are, like I said earlier, there are a lot of factors. The play kind of changed things. Heck, the price of gas. I mean, we used to roll around when gas cost less than $1.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it just economically, at the end of the month, it makes more sense for us to go out, just me on stage and me and Celeste and Zeus,
Yeah.
rather than have like, you know, a bus. And
Oh, it's costly, man, to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then you go, and a lot of times you don't make the money you thought, so everybody else gets paid, maybe not even what you want to pay them except you.
exactly.
And I mean, it's just not reward. I mean, you know, you didn't do this for the money. You didn't, if you're going to pick a career where you need to make tons of money, you're not going to be a musician, but you want to get paid.
Sure,
You
sure.
know, it feels good to earn money, and you need it to pay the bills, man. So
Yeah,
yeah, I totally
absolutely.
get that, man.
And I always tell kids to go to school. You know, I think read and go to school. It forces you to think. It makes you a better guitar player. It makes you a better songwriter.
Yeah, reading does,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yep.
man. Hey, let's talk about gear for a few minutes, Cary. What's your go-to guitar? What's the primary guitar you playing?
There's two of them. I had a friend of mine here in Fort Collins that built a guitar for me. His name is Michael Bashkin. He builds really wonderful instruments, and he based this guitar that I've been playing for the last year off of my needs. For, you know, we talked about the guitar for a year before he even started putting it together. So it's a little shorter scale because I'm like not a big guy. Frets are as close together as he could get them. It's thin, it's light, it's easy for me to stand up and see the whole guitar.
Yeah.
Um, there's that one, and then
Is that the one that's like semi-hollow?
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's acoustic, it's hollow, but I mean, it has the F holes in it, or an F hole, I think.
No, this one actually doesn't have a sound hole.
Okay.
You're probably thinking of the Taylor T5, and they're very similar guitars, but the Bashkin, um, it didn't come with all the bells and whistles that I don't feel like I ever use or need.
Hmm.
Um, the pickup is simple. The just everything about it is just really simple. There's no inlays or, you know, fancy binding around the body. It's just like it's made out of pine.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's just a really simple instrument, and that's been my go-to. Celeste wanted to get me on to the Brews and Blues festival stage in Telluride.
That's the one I saw next year is coming up.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. Well, she wanted to get me onto the main stage, and she said, you know, if you win the blues challenge, they'll put you on the main stage 10 minutes later. So that was kind of the goal. So we went, and I actually ended up winning, and there I was. But they
Awesome,
gave me a Martin guitar, which I didn't feel like I needed another guitar. I think I'm like, I have every guitar that I need in my world right now. But they gave me this Martin as like for winning that thing, and I really like it. So I've actually been playing that guitar way more than I ever imagined I would.
That's great. That's a
I'm
pleasant
happy.
surprise.
Yeah, I'm happy that it that it worked out the way that it did, for sure.
Is that the same thing with acoustic with a pickup?
It's an acoustic. It kind of looks like a parlor guitar. It's a shorter scale. It's got a shorter neck on it. Doesn't have a cutaway, but it's got a nice Fishman pickup in it, and it sounds good on stage. So yeah, I've actually been playing it like um, around town. I don't take it on airplanes or anything, but yeah, it's been nice to have. I'll probably play it tonight, actually.
What was the guitar in that video that I told you about earlier, where you're on the back porch of Elvis's house where he was born in Mississippi?
J50. Hey, Celeste, is this a J50 or 45? Yeah, it's a 1965 J50 Gibson.
That's a pretty guitar, man.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I also play this 70s Gurion that was also a gift from Music Maker Foundation in North Carolina.
That's cool.
They gave me a couple of guitars, and that it's like an early 70s Gurion that I played on stage and played in recordings quite a lot for a couple of years. Still have it, and feels great, sounds great. But that's one of those guitars that I just don't really want to cart around with me in case, you know, it ends up disappearing or something.
And I totally get it. Ever sell a guitar you wish you can get back?
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had some really nice electrics over the years. I really like the G&L Tellys.
Yeah, man. I know a lot of guys who like those.
I had a variety of those. I had these Parker Fly guitars. I had about 4 of those.
Really?
That I really liked. I had a Les Paul that I really liked, and I think I went when I was younger. I saw them more as just like work tools, and that now they're more like family members.
Yeah,
I don't want to get rid of anything, but yeah, I'm down to I think 2 electrics and about 4 acoustics that I like. And you know, I don't anticipate being like really enamored by a guitar that I absolutely have to have. But
sure,
if I had to have something back, it'd be that either those G&L Tellys or the Les Paul Junior that I thought was really cool.
That's a great guitar. What was it? Yellow? TV yellow?
Tobacco.
Yeah, those are cool guitar. What 2 electrics do you have now?
They're both G&Ls. One's it's like a student level or a lower line, and I think it was like a $400 guitar, but it looks like a Les Paul Junior. It's just got one P90 in it and a volume knob.
That's cool.
And then I have a PRS 513 that pretty much can sound like a Strat or a Telly or a Les Paul. It pretty much does it all.
That's great, man. Do you happen to know a guy named John Carroll in Austin?
John Carroll? No, I don't think I do.
Oh, he's a guitar player. He just got a G&L. He loves it, man.
Telly.
Yeah. G&L Telly loves it.
Yeah, that's I think the ultimate. Love those.
Tell me your top 3 Desert Island discs in no particular order and just for right now, because obviously this changes all the time.
Okay. Desert Island discs. Shadows and Light, Joni Mitchell. Terms of Surrender, Hiss, Golden Messenger.
Who is that?
Hiss, Golden Messenger, band out of Durham, North Carolina. They're blowing up right now. I love those guys.
Shadows and Light.
Shadows and Light, Joni Mitchell.
Right, and then I'm sorry. The next one is.
The next one is Terms of Surrender.
Terms of Surrender. Okay.
Hiss, Golden Messenger.
And Hiss is that HISS?
Yes, it is.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I will.
This might change your life.
It might, man. I'm always open to a life change.
Oh, well, you know, I'll tell you what. The guy that you need to talk to in that band is a friend of mine, and you would love to interview him. His name is Phil Cook.
Awesome.
Phil Cook. I can give you his number. I can give you everything you need. And maybe, yeah, look up their stuff on YouTube, and their songs that are so thoughtful and
what kind of music is it?
Engaging. It's rock. It's Americana.
Isn't that a weird word, Americana? Like when we were kids, like, what the hell's Americana?
Yeah.
And now everything's like, oh, it's Americana.
Yeah. It's like what, you know, if you don't want to scare people and call your music folk, you call it Americana.
Or like, yeah, like, are the Eagles Americana? Would they have been, right? Jackson Brown, I guess that would have been Americana, right?
Yeah, everything is. And then my third, gosh, there's a lot of albums that could fill that third spot. Harvest, probably, Neil
Great
Young.
record, man.
Yeah, I like the fiddle on it, and yeah, wow. There's just so much good music out there these days, and we have access to everything ever recorded now.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wonderful. But
I was a very late adapter to streaming, like really late. I think I told you before we started talking about my kids, but I was just telling my wife yesterday, I said, that is the single, it's horrible for the musicians, but for the consumers of music, that is the single greatest thing that's ever happened.
Yep.
I mean, I wish it wasn't at the expense of the artists,
mm-hmm.
and it shouldn't be. But as a consumer, man, I get my $10, $15 a month. I get that every day almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the other sad reality is we're kind of our own record companies now. We have to like throw down what they would have 30 years ago.
Yeah.
If you were lucky enough to have a deal.
Yeah.
Now we have to do that on our own. And I think that without the ability to get your music out to the world through like a Spotify or YouTube or something, it wouldn't be possible.
No, it's a necessary evil in today's economy, music economy.
Mm-hmm.
is the reality of it. But I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and I didn't know this because their record is doing really well. And it was actually a woman named Tara Lynch. Her interview dropped today. She's kind of like a metal artist, and she's doing really well, and she wants to get on a label. I'm like, why do you want to get on a label? I didn't realize this. You can't get on Billboard unless you have a label. Like,
I did.
Yeah.
I've been in Billboard. Well, I haven't been on the charts though.
Maybe that's what she told me, and I said, really? Because I never heard that. And but not that I would. I'm not like not in traffic in that conversation,
right?
So I wouldn't really know. But I was shocked because that's like, come on, talk about rigging the game. Who runs Billboard? Then obviously the record companies.
Yeah.
Well, we have this group. We'll give you a ranking, but you got to give us group. You got to pay your dues to the member of the group.
Right.
Come on, man. That's total bullshit.
It is. But we try and jump through all the hoops that we can. We submit to everything out there up to the Grammys, everything below, and Celeste has become really adept at knowing the right thing to do and the right people to be in touch with, and she basically does everything and more that a record company would do. And
that's great.
Right out of her own office,
Does she cost you more or less than a record company?
Well, more, because she gets 100%. So.
How long you guys been together? That was a good one.
Long time. Yeah, but I think we've developed what we do. Her on management side, she has a handful of other artists that she works with.
Oh, that's great.
And we, like, when I first started going out and doing my own solo shows and tours and stuff, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I still kind of don't. But she was a fledgling in that end of the business too. So we've kind of grown up together in that regard.
That's great, man.
And continue to.
That's wonderful. Tell me best decision you ever made?
Wow. I'm not sure that that's happened yet, but
I feel the same way. I'm always waiting for that, man. No, mine has happened, but I'm always waiting for the next one.
Yeah, I don't know. Gosh. Well, when Pudafe called and she asked if I understood acoustic blues, I had just come off of doing the the atoll for 20 years, and I totally didn't understand acoustic blues, and I told her that I did.
Right on, man.
Because I wanted the gig.
Yeah.
And
everybody does that. If it makes you feel any better, I've talked to 100 guys who've done the same thing.
Yeah.
You play dobro? Yeah. And then they go out and they buy a dobro, or rent or buy one, borrow with their buddies. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I spent the next 10 days like with a guitar in my hand, figuring out what the heck I was going to do to get that gig. And yeah, it was good. It totally changed my life.
It totally changed your life. Now you're an acoustic blues solo artist. Holy, that is it's a big one, man.
It's a big one. I don't know that I've ever told her that. Like I said, I just did a show with her a couple days ago in North Carolina. And it's like when we get on stage, it's like we've been doing it like, without a break. But I will have to have that conversation with her.
Yeah, man. She'll laugh at that. I mean, in good spirits. Will. Yeah, she'll probably really enjoy that. That's awesome, man. Hey, man, she's happy that you say you made that the choice as well. Believe me.
I hope so.
Yeah, of course, man. That's a really good story. Cary, what's your definition of happiness?
Being on stage, and it's about all I've ever known, really. When I used to play with bands for a lot of years, we used to base everything off of the dance floor. If the dance floor is full, then everybody's happy. I have to, I guess, base a successful performance off of other things now. But it really makes me happy to have done a good job, and the songs mean something to people. It's incredibly rewarding.
That's wonderful, man. Tough question. What do you like most about yourself? That's the toughest question I ask people, man, especially musicians are like.
I know. I can imagine most of the responses. I think that I have a good ability to adapt to whatever the situation is. And I've learned over the years that change is good. Even radical change is not. It doesn't scare me anymore. It's good to be different.
Yeah.
To strive to be different, and I think I've developed that. Just the ability to shapeshift and change. Over the years. So. Hope that answers it.
Yeah, man. Totally cool. Best childhood memory?
My great-great-grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
I don't speak Crow, and she didn't speak English, but she did some wonderful things in her long life, and a lot of it lives on through her grandchildren or great-grandchildren, and being around her was really amazing.
That's your mom's great-grandmother?
Yes.
So that's your mom is one generation, her mom is your grandmother, three, so that's 4 generations north.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, great-grandmother. Just it would be my mother's grandmother.
Okay, so it's your great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was 106, I think, when I was like 4 years old, and so I have like my earliest memories as a child include her.
That's nice, man. On top of that, you got longevity in your DNA, which is also pretty cool.
Let's hope.
Yeah, man. Both of us, let's hope. That's great, man. Something about yourself people would be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
I like listening to radio shows. Always have since I was a little kid.
Like talk radio?
Yeah, like talk radio. Now that's kind of shifted to podcasts. And
yeah.
Before I used to stream things, I like loved KOA radio out of Denver. I don't listen to music as much as maybe other musicians do.
Believe it or not, a lot of musicians don't listen to music a lot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do listen to music every day, but it doesn't consume me. And I think that talk radio and audio books are kind of my escape.
Yeah, man. You know, I saw an article yesterday that there's 800,000 podcasts.
Holy cow.
800,000. Now, most of them are dead. Like people start a podcast and they're like, you know, it's like going to the gym, you know, hey man, I got my gym membership, right? In January, you know, by the February 2nd, they're like, man, too tough. I'm done. Right. Yeah, so most of them are like that, but that's ridiculous. 800,000, man.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That is a lot.
Who's had the biggest influence on you musically and then personally?
Well, there's been, you know, a lot of guitar players that I really respect. Ray Bonneville's one of them. David Bromberg's one of them. I think they all have there's certain niche that I gravitate towards. Bromberg's a great blues player, but I really liked his bluegrass music.
Right.
You know, I really like. Yeah, I love his flat picking. Yeah. Ray Bonneville's like a fantastic guitar player, but I really like his harmonica playing, and the combination of the two, and of course his songwriting. So I don't think it's possible to narrow it down to like one person. I think that probably the all-around player who was like really astounding acoustic guitar player, open tuning player, and electric player, Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, great, incredible player, man. Really low key. He's never somebody you've ever seen like paper or anything. And how about personally? Who's been the biggest influence on your life?
Hands down, Celeste. She's like, she really took me out of like what I was doing and kind of encouraged me to do better and do more, and kind of clean me up, put me out there, you know.
Good for you, man. Good for you. You always gotta like get with a woman that's above your pay grade. I know I did, you know.
Exactly. Totally out of my league. But
yeah, right.
Like we spend every single day together, whether we're on the road or at home. We work together every day, all day long. So
that's tough for some people. Yeah.
Yeah. How could she not be my biggest influence?
Sure. I totally get that, man. 3 more questions, Carey.
Okay.
Any hobbies or interests outside of music?
I like to fly fish.
Very cool.
It seems like I have less and less time to do that. I did go walk the Gunnison River with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and that's.
What do you catch there? Trout?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love fishing, but I've never fly fished.
Yeah.
Looks exciting, man.
When we go to Key West, I hope to. I'm going to have to up my gear to accommodate saltwater, but I hope to spend a lot of time uh, walking around the water in Key West this spring. Yeah, that's kind of
That's a
the
cool. I love
the
fish.
one. Yeah, like I've done other things. I used to really like to kayak and do more athletic kind of stuff, but fishing is stuck around in my life.
Yeah, fishing's cool. I love fishing. Tell me about a specific experience that either changed your life or changed the way you think about things or look at things.
Uh, I got really sick like 5 years ago,
Oh, wow.
and it was like way worse than I knew it was. It wasn't really until after it was all said and done that I found out how serious it really was. And I think after that, I kind of felt like everything's a second chance.
You got
Everything's
a second
gravy.
chance. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
What was it if you're comfortable? And if you're not, that's totally cool.
I just had gut problems and
Wow.
went septic and
Holy
I,
crap.
I was doing shows in Kansas City and I had like 10 shows to do. And Celeste said, we probably should go home. I said, just let me get through these 10 shows and then we'll go. And by the end of it, it was like obviously a bad idea. So the very next day, she just drove like crazy and got me to the hospital in Colorado. And everything got better after that. But yeah, that was illuminating.
You're all good now?
Oh yeah,
Good, man.
100%.
Good. And last question, Cary, what's been the biggest change in your personality over, say, the last 10 years? And how much of that change has been intentional and how much is just a natural process of aging?
I think that I've become a little more laid back. I don't really let like if there's issues, if there's problems, if things that come up, especially in the music business. I used to, I think, let things kind of get to me, or I would react. Now I just know that it's just part of life, and it's not. There's really hardly anything out there that it's worth
Yeah.
getting gray hair over. So
Yeah, man.
I just try to keep chill about things in the music business and everything else.
Man, that's a very good decision. Minimizing your stress. Like I said, I'm all about that, man. Hey, listen, let me tell people where to find you. First of all, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you, and thanks for being so open and so cool.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. Everybody, if you're not familiar with Cary Morin's music, please check it out. It's Cary Morin, Morin, and he's got a really robust website at carymorin.com. His first name is spelled Cary. His new record is When I Rise. Great blues record. Cradle to the Grave, the one right before that, it's also a fantastic record. That was from 2017. Both of those won Indigenous Blues Record of the Year. He's got a new one coming out. Can I tell the name of it?
Sure.
It's called Dockside Saints, and you'll be able to, first of all, listen to all of them on Spotify. But if you go to carymorin.com, he has links to everything on there. I want to tell you about a few shows he's got coming up, and hopefully I don't screw this up. In Pensacola, he is going to be on WUWV just a couple of days on January 9th, a couple of days from the day this interview is being released, and that's on Radio Live. He is going to be in New Orleans for a lot of January to the Folk Alliance and at another place called DMAX. And again, all of this is going to be on carymorin.com. He also is going to be in Mississippi with another Cary, because there's only two and they hang out together. Cary Hudson.
That's right. He's my man.
And so check him out. Again, all these are going to be on CaryMorin.com. And he's going to be with Will Kimbrough, who we had here on the show a while back, really good songwriter. They have a band together called Rancho Deluxe. Again, go to CaryMorin.com for more info. And if you're in Colorado, come check out Cary's band Ghost Dog. And at all of these shows, if you go out and see Cary, let him know you heard about him on Everyone Loves Guitar, and you enjoyed listening to his interview, because he always likes to get with his audience and find out, where did you find out about him? And
yeah, everybody give me a shout and say hi. I love that.
Please do, yeah. And he is also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And man, I would really encourage everybody to check out his YouTube channel, because he's got just some really beautiful songs on there. I don't know, like I was telling him, being a city guy, I really enjoyed your videos that were like out in the country. And, you're very authentic, and like in that environment, you could tell like you're where you're supposed to be.
Excellent.
Yeah. And as a listener and somebody who enjoys your music, it's nice to put that whole thing together. So everybody check out Cary's YouTube channel and subscribe to that. And I think that's it. Anything I missed, man?
I think that's it, man. I appreciate your time, and hope maybe we can do it again someday. Give Phil a shout if you need his contact info.
I will. Let me wrap this up, and then I'll pick your brain for that. Is
okay.
That cool? Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Check out and support Cary Morin's music. I really like you to check him out on Spotify. When I Rise, Cradle to the Grave. Sign up do you have an email list at CaryMorin.com?
Yes.
Sign up, give him your email so you can stay in touch with him, and hit him up on all the social media channels. Again, it's Cary Morin, CaryMorin. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Cary, thanks for everything, brother.
Thanks, sir.